After January 6 rioter Andrew Paul Johnson got his pardon from President Trump, he repeatedly sexually abused two 12-year-old children and tried to keep them quiet by promising to share with them some of the millions of dollars in restitution that he plans to receive from the Trump administration. If not for President Trump's pardon, these children never would have been molested. Their innocence would not have been shattered by this monster. It is essential to hear from people harmed also by the aggressive police state-style immigration enforcement tactics that have terrified the country.
That was not a political attack. That was a name, a crime, and two kids. Raskin just said a man Trump freed went on to molest two 12-year-olds and tried to silence them with promised Trump administration money. The pardon didn't just let a rioter walk. It handed a predator a fresh start and a cover story. And this is the same administration sitting on Epstein files, blocking survivor testimony, and refusing to name a single co-conspirator. If you want this tracked every day, hit subscribe, because now watch how Raskin built the full case.
Victims of violent crimes, all violent crimes, victims of vehicular homicides, and victims of reckless driving, all of them must be listened to, must be heard, and must be respected. Victims must receive justice for the dreadful crimes that took their loved ones away. Perpetrators must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of our laws. Those who attack police officers or those who attack civilians must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of our laws. No one should be granted a blanket pardon without proof of remorse or rehabilitation or restitution to their victims. And once perpetrators have served their sentence here, if they're in our country illegally, they should be removed from our country. This is not a partisan problem, and nobody should try to turn it into a partisan problem. Tragically, the stories that we hear today can be told of any president. President Bush, President Obama, President Trump, President Biden, each of their administrations, their lost family members at the hands of people who came into the country illegally under Democratic and Republican administrations alike. It's not a partisan problem. Everyone knows our immigration system has been broken for decades. Administration after administration, we have lacked the political will to do the hard work of putting together a bipartisan solution. We need an immigration system that makes it a lot harder to come here illegally, or impossible to come here illegally, and a lot easier to come here legally to participate in the American dream. We need an immigration system that gives dreamers and others who have built a productive and law-abiding life in our country a pathway to legal status. Alas, this administration is focused on mass arrests, mass detention, and mass deportation that are dividing our country in unprecedented ways. To achieve this goal, DHS is not focused on going after the worst of the worst. The category of violent criminals quickly exhausted, with Stephen Miller demanding 3,000 draconian immigration arrests every single day. Federal agents simply started indiscriminately rounding up immigrants and American citizens who looked like immigrants, according to the agents. ICE has arrested kindergartners, daycare teachers, parents dropping off their kids at school. They dragged U.S. citizen grandparents out of their homes in their underwear in sub-zero temperatures and ripped children from their beds in the middle of the night, using them as bait to arrest their parents. When ICE does manage to arrest people with criminal records or charges, those are often people who are currently in custody. In many cases, ICE is effectively giving criminals get-out-of-jail-free cards by deporting them in the middle of their criminal sentences, or even worse, deporting them before their trials can even begin, depriving their victims of justice. Also, the agency can simply jack up the president's deportation numbers. This makes it vital to hear from families like yours who have suffered from terrible crimes, to hear about the importance of accountability for those crimes. Your testimony is an important and powerful reminder that the fundamental responsibility of our federal law enforcement and justice system is to keep the people safe and to ensure that no one is ever above the law and no one is ever beneath it. The government must stand on the side of victims of crimes, not their perpetrators. I try to remind Attorney General Bondi of that principle when she appeared here before our committee. That's why we've been so focused on insisting that we hear from the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and their elite pedophile network, the women survivors who our government has failed at every turn. We failed to protect them from the appalling human trafficking and rape ring in the first place. Then our government failed them again by not holding any of Epstein's powerful friends accountable, exposing victims' names while censoring the names of perpetrators and playing outrageous political games with the files in DOJ's possession that they are legally compelled to turn over to Congress and make public. I was happy to hear that the First Lady of the United States agrees with that, and we hope that our committee will heed her call to hold hearings, as Mrs. Trump said, with the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's billion-dollar global sex trafficking ring. This is also why we speak up for all of the people victimized and harmed by the people who stormed the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Not only the over 150 police officers who were bludgeoned, beaten, crushed, and even died because of what happened that day, but also for all of those who have been harmed by the January 6 perpetrators after they got their pardons from President Trump. These pardon recipients have gone on to abuse women and children, plot murders, and commit sexual assault and kidnapping.
Here is what this hearing just put on record. Trump pardoned over 1,600 people. No remorse required, no restitution required. Many of them had prior charges for rape, child exploitation, domestic violence, and murder plots. A Democratic memo put the price tag on victims at $1.3 billion. Then the administration turned around and told Epstein survivors, "Wait, we'll get you your files. Trust us." They didn't. They released millions of pages with 70 to 80% still blacked out. They gave Congress 4 computers in a satellite office. And when lawmakers showed up to read the files, Pam Bondi showed up to the next hearing with their search history printed in a binder. That is not transparency. That is surveillance. Bondi's now been fired. She's now been subpoenaed. She's now refusing to show up. The administration that swore it would expose Epstein is now running from the very committee demanding answers. And Trump's name? Lawmakers who got into the unredacted files say it appears over 1 million times. A document inside those files contradicts Trump's public claim that he removed Epstein from Mar-a-Lago. That document was redacted, for no legal reason. Someone made that call. Raskin's line is simple. The government failed Epstein's victims when it didn't protect them. It failed them again when it didn't prosecute the co-conspirators. And it is failing them right now, with redactions, stonewalling, and a DOJ that has not brought a single indictment against a single person in Epstein's network. Meanwhile, the men freed on January 6th are back out in the world. One of them is accused of molesting children. Another was spotted near Raskin's house. This is the record, not the spin. The record, if it follows this administration the way Raskin is ensuring it will, and the survivors keep showing up, and the subpoenas keep coming, the cover-up gets harder to hold together every single week. Subscribe, because this is not over.